Hey everyone, before we get into the podcast, we want to announce some updates with our Power Monkey courses leading into 2022. We are excited about continuing to offer our gymnastics and weightlifting combo courses, 1 and 2 day offerings. If you go to powermonkeyfitness.com, search under the events tab, you'll be able to see what we already have on the agenda for 2022. We will be expanding into kettlebell offerings as well. Those are already up on the site too. If you're looking to host one yourself, please contact us at info@powermonkeyfitness.com and we'll get one of the courses out your way if one's not already on the agenda. Come hang out with us, learn some technical expertise when it comes to weightlifting, gymnastics, and now kettlebell. Hopefully see you soon. Welcome to the Power Monkey Podcast, where we chat with the best in the world about what they do. I'm your host, Dave Durante, and this week I have a new co-host, Mr. Jordan Samuel. Jordan is normally behind the camera working to get our guests ready to go, to work on all the technical pieces, but Jordan is a wealth of knowledge, having been around the CrossFit community for well over a decade, competed at a high level, knows the sport inside and out, and we're lucky to have him on with us today. Our guest is someone that you may not know his name, but you definitely know his artwork. This is Karl Eagleman, the man behind Whiteboard Daily. Now, he puts out some of the best content with regards to digestible ways to be looking at some of the technical aspects of more complex movements and giving some incredible cues to go along with it. Karl has been around the CrossFit community since 2007, well over a decade, a lot longer than many of us. He is a L2 coach, and now he's actually teaching at a high school strength conditioning. He's an amazing guy. I really had a great time talking with him a little bit more about the artwork, but also some of the technical pieces, how he comes up with the concepts. We hope you guys enjoy this one. There's a wealth of knowledge in here, and we hope you're not only following Karl, but also looking a little bit more into what he's going to be putting out soon, a new app, as well as a book that's coming out with a lot of content that he puts out on Whiteboard Daily. Enjoy. Well, Karl, thanks so much for taking the time to be with us today. How you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. I really am honored to be here. And like you said, like we talked about before, I've done quite a few podcast interviews, and I'm always just honored to sit down and talk with what I would consider content experts, subject matter experts in our field, and just talk shop and just catch up on things. I'm just so honored to sit here. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, I appreciate it. And, just talking about it from an athletic background, you were mentioning, some of the things that I had done in gymnastics decades ago, but you were an athlete in your own right, and you probably are as polar opposite as it gets from being a gymnast. You were a basketball player yourself, right? And how tall are you?
Yeah, I'm 6'7".
That's a strat. That's doesn't even comprehend in the gymnastics world.
I was 6'7". I'm 43 now, so probably I think I'm like 6'6" right now. But yeah, I still am on the taller side of the spectrum. And yeah, I played basketball. When you're tall and you grow up in Indiana, it's kind of a given that you're going to play basketball. So thankfully, it was a popular sport here, and it allowed me to work really hard and get a full ride scholarship to play basketball for Bellarmine University down in Louisville, Kentucky. So I went down there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was good.
Do you have any hopes or dreams to play basketball beyond that, to go and play professionally, or was it kind of the scholarship was kind of end of the road for you?
No, well, I mean, it's more like, yeah, it was like a flash in the pan type thing where I was like, man, that'd be really cool. But then also I was kind of getting burnt out on basketball because I played it my entire life. And I realized that I grew up, I'm from Brown County, Indiana, which is a pretty small place in Indiana, and there's so many other sports out there, and I got to the point where I started to realize that there's so much more out there that is of interest to me, and so I kind of started to dabble in other things, and probably the biggest thing was CrossFit, realizing this sport of CrossFit and all of the different methodologies, or all the different monostructure, all the different components of CrossFit. I was like, man, this is really cool. I really enjoy doing this. So that was a big segue for me, is learning about that.
Where did that exposure to CrossFit come from? Like, what, I mean, because you found it pretty early on, right? So how is it that you stumbled across CrossFit at such an early point?
I was doing like the bodybuilding type of workouts all the time after I graduated, and I got to the point where I was like, I don't know, like I had to run somewhere. And I was like, dang, I spend so much time in the gym, but I'm like, I feel like so out of shape. I was like, what am I doing in here? And so I started learning more about this back then, the whole term of like functional, this is around 2008, 2007, 2008, of like functional fitness. And this is really before kettlebells came out, or really before, you know, kipping pull-ups were a thing. And I learned about Jim Jones. Okay, I learned about the movie 300 and how these actors got in great shape. And I learned about they were coached by Mark Twight, who ran Jim Jones in Salt Lake City, Utah. And so I learned about like this high intensity interval training and functional movement. And then I learned about how Mark Twight used to learn from Greg Glassman. And then I learned about CrossFit through Greg Glassman, obviously. And that it just kind of opened up this big box. And so ever since then, you know, it's been a big part of my life.
So
Yeah,
when
that's
you
pretty
first
early
started,
on.
yeah, and when you must have been doing like, you must have been the guy in the gym doing the weird stuff that people were looking at like, what is going on with this freaking guy? And so, I mean, did that deter you at all from continuing to do kipping pull-ups and, you know, snatches and these other things, or did you just embrace that?
Oh no, I definitely embraced it, because it was like, man, I'm onto something so big time. Like and I don't know about you guys, but like when CrossFit first came out, well, when CrossFit started to like the beginning of that bell curve of popularity, when it first came out, I think there are a lot of people who were like, man, it's CrossFit or nothing. Like if you're not doing CrossFit, you're wasting your time, or like CrossFit is like just it. And I was like, man, I've kind of felt like CrossFit is this new thing that works and it's fun. And all these other people are like in their own little boxes of like what they think they should be doing, but like they should be doing CrossFit. That's how I used to think. And you know, now I as long as somebody's active, I don't care what you're doing, you know, just have fun. But back then it was like CrossFit or nothing. So it was like I would be in like a Globo gym. I'd be at like either the IU, Indiana University sports gym, or I lived out in California. I would go to the Berkeley rec sports gym there, and I would be doing kipping pull-ups, and people would be like, what is he doing? But I'm like, man, I'm doing something so different. You guys don't even know. So you just gotta embrace it. Yeah.
Yeah. So couple of things in there. One, do you live in Bloomington now? Is that kind of like was a location where you were for a while, or is that where you are right now?
So I got my teaching certification in PE, and I got my master's in kinesiology from IU.
Okay.
Brown County is right next to Bloomington. So I basically grew up in Bloomington as like a second home to me. And then also, but now I'm in Columbus, Indiana, which is it's still right around the same area next to Bloomington and Brown County. Kind of moving back home to my roots here. And but I'm at an awesome high school. I got an awesome job that I love. So having a really good time now.
That's great to hear. The reason why I bring it up is because one of our very, very close team members for Power Monkey Camp, Sean Tiemann, is the owner of Hoosier CrossFit out there. I was curious if you had any interaction with him or had seen him on campus over the years.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sean Tiemann is a good buddy of mine. I mean, I consider him a good buddy. He and I remember when he first came to Bloomington with Hoosier CrossFit. I don't think I have the shirt anymore, but because it's probably so raggedy. But yeah, Sean's awesome. Sean, I remember when he first went to Power Monkey. I've known him for quite a bit. He's a great guy.
Yeah, we had taught a couple seminars over at his gym. I know he's up in a big space and everything, but just the community is so small, you know, especially if you've been around over a decade now, traveling around. You said you were in Indiana, but then California. I think you were in New Zealand for a little while too. You see a lot of people. You probably come around to a lot of people that end up becoming not just close friends, but almost like family because it's such a tight-knit community.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I got my first level 1 CrossFit certification at the ranch out in Aromas, and you know everyone's talking about Castro right now, and he was one of the first people that I kind of met within that community. And so yeah, it's a very small community, especially the further back you go. For people who kind of like were in that first kind of wave of early adopters of CrossFit, you kind of remember things very, very vividly. It was a very impressionable time.
Now, on the technical side, you know, this is a big part of what you do. You focus a lot on movement technique and how things should be done from a movement standard perspective. Is this something early on that you gravitated towards, not just trying to get through a workout, but trying to do it particularly well? trying to make sure that you had a foundation that would allow for longevity. I'm just kind of curious why technique was something that you kind of gravitated towards now in terms of what you're doing with Wetboard Daily, if that was something that was just inherently part of the way that you approach movement.
That's a good question. I haven't really approached that type of question before. Technique has always been a very important part of my teaching style and also just what I'm interested in. And I think it goes back to like those first days of CrossFit when everyone had this bad impression of CrossFit because it was high intensity interval training. And it was like the harder that you work, the more fatigue that you incur, and then your technique starts to go down the drain. And so people would see people, you know, CrossFitters doing snatches with curved backs and like just really poor form. And I was like, man, no, it shouldn't be like that. Like people should really, again, harking back to Glassman with technique and then consistency and then intensity. Like first, just focus on the technique. Then once you're moving well consistently, only then should you add intensity. And that's actually a slide that's in my day one classes here. I'm a strength and conditioning teacher here at Columbus East High School. And so I'm teaching about 270 students every other day. I see half and half every day. And so it's technique, consistency, mechanic, or intensity. So it's just a big part of like, I feel like that's important because poor form is only gonna get you so far. Poor form, you can only lift so much weight with poor form before either your progress is gonna stall or you're gonna get injured. One of those two things is gonna happen. So if you just nail in good motor patterns at the beginning, your potential is unlimited, really.
Yeah, that's interesting, especially with the fact that you teach younger athletes and helping to build that foundation. I'm curious to know, do you get to input your philosophies and so forth in the curriculum that you get to teach, or are you like handed like, this is what we're going over, and then you have to work with whatever's there to try to make sure these kids are moving properly?
Yeah, I am entirely at the helm. I come up with the whole programming. I come up with how I teach. And I'm watching these guys like a hawk, and they know it. And I think that they really appreciate the attention to detail when it comes to movement because they see their numbers increasing overall. So I just feel very thankful to have a position where I can, if I start off the day and say a class doesn't go right with the day that I programmed, next mod that comes in, I can change it up as I go along. I've already got the programming written out for the rest of the semester, but you know, things, if I don't like the way things look, then it's entirely up to me to change it off. And I really appreciate that. It's a really cool feeling.
That's interesting. I'm curious, you know, PE and growing up for me was, I'm sure for you guys too, was very different than maybe what you're doing with high school students today. You know, it was just throwing a baseball around or going shoot basketball. Yeah, games or whatever it was. I mean, it was nice to be active. And I think it's something that everybody needs to do. You're doing it every other day with the students. I'm sure we would all advocate for it being something people should do a little bit every day. But I'm curious how in depth you're able to kind of bring in some of the more technical pieces of things that we were never exposed to, whether or not these kids know what CrossFit is, if you're doing CrossFit with them, or if it's more about like work on some positional pieces. You know, we're going to be lifting a barbell, understanding what a clean is, what a snatch is, body awareness type things. What are you actually doing with them, and what components are you taking from CrossFit to be able to implement?
Yeah,
I actually add on to that. Is there, in addition to that, are there any things that you definitely are staying away from with the kids too? And kind of like piggybacking on Dave's question.
Let me answer that. Let me first off, I'm going to show you, this is my office, but then in here, I know you
oh, wow.
That's so.
Wow, that's a high school gym?
Dude, a lot of college gyms don't look like that.
Yeah. For those of you just listening, he just panned around to his office, and the gym looks like a collegiate football.
There must have been 10 platforms there.
Oh, there are 18 platforms. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, 18 platforms. And then 12 of which have Olympic weightlifting platforms with bumpers. I mean, it's unlike, like you said, it's basically a collegiate gym. And this is kind of like how things are trending now with regard to high school sports is like, and here's the crazy thing, strength training and advanced strength training. That's what I teach every single day. I feel so thankful and blessed to come to school. And like, that's my job, is to teach this in a beautiful facility like this. But and the class isn't elective. You don't need this class to graduate, but considering the funds that are going behind it to support it, and considering the popularity, like it's never going to go anywhere. Like it's such a part of the curriculum that I don't have to worry about making sure that the numbers are high enough that the class isn't going to get canceled. It's never going to go away, and it's only going to grow more because sports are a bigger part of the culture now, and people are looking for winning programs. And there's another high school here in town that students can go to that one. So there's a little competition there between the schools to make sure that ours offers the same things that one does as well. And it's just, like you said, Dave, things have changed. Like back in my day, I mean, we maybe had 2 platforms and you had to wait or something. Like there was not even close to the way it is right now. So I know that kind of deviated from the question there, but
No, not at all. That was amazing to see that. That was it's enlightening. I mean, for me, it's like I'm encouraged to see that high schools are investing so much in not only the equipment, but someone like yourself who has the expertise to be able to teach how to use things properly. Like, I don't remember even going into my high school, strength and conditioning gym. The football players used it. I was more of a bodyweight guy that would go to gymnastics gym anyway, but I don't think anyone actually even used the equipment that was available for us, let alone having an expert there to make sure that we were moving correctly. But you said that a lot of it had to do with it being an elective and not a requirement. That's also interesting for me. But what percentage of students would you say are actually electing to be a part of it and participate in what you're doing?
That's a good question. I would say out of all of the student athletes here that we have, and again, my numbers are pretty rough here, I'm just going to go based on percentages here. I would say that probably about 75 to 80%, if you're a student athlete, meaning that if you play a sport for any of the sports, I'm talking about football, baseball, basketball, golf, whatever, it's probably 75% of the students are going to be here in class. So also that makes my job a lot easier because I get students who actually want to be here. They want to lift weights and they want to get stronger. I don't have to worry about trying to force a kid to be like, hey, you need to do this. I need to see some effort. Like the efforts, for the most part, it's always there. So, and then also it also changes because I probably have every single football player in class at one time throughout the week or throughout the day. And then because it's football is probably one of the most popular sports for strength training, obviously. And then, I see a lot of like girls volleyball. I see a lot of girls basketball. I see some boys basketball. And I want the coaches to understand, a big part of my job too, is convincing coaches that, hey, stronger athletes are better athletes. They're going to have higher performance. They're going to have a higher confidence. They're going to be injured less likely. So it's me also kind of being an advocate, be like, hey, the enrollment looks really good right now, but it can be even better. Some of my classes, I'll probably have my biggest classes are 43 or 44 students or so. And my smallest classes are probably about 35 or so. So it's still pretty big, I would say.
And are you changing the program inside of the class for different groups of athletes, knowing what their sport is, or is it just a blanket thing every day for each athlete?
That's a good question too. I think it would be very challenging to do that, to make a catered program based on the needs for that sport or for that athlete. So what I do is a general strength and conditioning program that's going to help every student in some way. And it's not specialized, leaning more towards one way or the other. It's going to benefit swimmers just as much as it's going to benefit football players. But after school and with the individual teams, and then I'll work to create some more individualized program for them as well.
Do you have any gymnastics based in there? I see a lot of barbells and plates and everything, but curious about 6'7" introducing gymnastics into it.
I wish I could walk you down. So behind that, we do actually have a pretty robust gymnastics program here.
Amazing.
Along with the floor and all the different apparatuses.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's I think it's only girls gymnastics. I don't think that there's enough interest in the guys stuff. But there's a what is it? Not the pommel horse, but the
vault.
The vault. Yeah, we've got a vault. We got a platform. Got the uneven bars. All that stuff is also here in school too. And so I do get a fair amount. And my gymnasts who are in class are like the best. And you know this. are usually my best lifters out there because their body awareness is through the roof. Yeah.
Sure.
They
Yeah,
probably also have really good range of motion too, I would imagine.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I love hearing that. Well, I had met with Ryan Flaherty. I don't know if you're aware he is. He does the Nike podcast, and I live out here close to Nike campus. And I met with him a little while back, and he was talking about working with a lot of the NFL combine athletes and prepping the NFL players prior to their seasons and stuff. And he was talking about how much he started introducing handstands into the NFL guys training because it's so helpful for just shoulder stability. And we're saying the predominant injury in the football world was shoulder injuries, subluxing the shoulders from all the blocking techniques, things like that, and how handstands was helping football players. And I was like, when I heard that, I was like, see that?
Yeah.
Even the biggest guys in the world can benefit from doing handstands. So when I hear that it's being done with you guys, with football players and things like that, it just makes me really happy.
That's really cool. Yeah, man.
Yeah, you don't have to be a gymnast to benefit from handstands.
I see that you've got some of your artwork on the background on the wall there. I'm curious to know, do your students, are they aware of your social media presence and what you're doing there? And do you actually leverage that, those drawings and whatnot in your classes?
I think that so this is my first year here, and I can talk about how I kind of transitioned to where I am right now. But I think that there was some talk about, oh, the new coach is like, he's really big on Instagram. And so, but I don't feel like maybe it helps with the credibility with the students, where they are like, man, I think he must know what he's talking about if he's got so many followers on Instagram or something like that. And I'm going to take any kind of credibility or leverage that I can, if it helps me communicate to them better movement. But they see the stuff on, and also they see the stuff on the walls here with the posters, but also there's a massive whiteboard out there. And I use that every single day to draw stuff out. For me, it's easier to and I hope it's easier for other people, but it's easy to kind of get confused with how the body should look. And especially with gymnastics is shapes. You're making shapes with your body. And so if I can somehow create just a line and make it look good and make it look how it should, it kind of helps students better understand how they should look. And it takes practice, just like anything else. I thankfully, just like over at squats or snatches, like the more you do it, the better you get. And so thankfully, because I've been drawing for Whiteboard Daily about 4 or 5 years, I guess 4 years, I'm getting better at doing that. So it makes me a better communicator.
Yeah, Dave and I were talking about this before you hopped on, and I feel like from a coaching perspective, being able to deliver cues and so forth in like the fewest number of words possible can be really, really helpful. And so I feel like your graphics are an excellent way to get a lot of information across in a very simple format. But I'm curious to know, when you draw these things out, I mean, you could probably, if you wanted to, just riddle it with words all over the place. So how do you go about making your graphics in a way that are simple and easy to digest, but still like really driving the point home?
I think practice. The more you do it, the better you get, like I said, but also too, and I mentioned this to actually a direct message today. Somebody was like, boy, it's really hard to draw proper proportions with, stick figures. And it's kind of, if you know really what to look for, then as far as like where the ankle, the knee, the ankle, the hip, and the shoulder should be, then it helps you. Those are like the big main points when you're like drawing a map. If you want to think about, you're drawing a map and you want to have you want to direct somebody through movement through your map. Your map is the human body that you're drawing. It's a stick figure. And you're like, well, here's your line of gravity. Here's where the foot is. And if the foot's here, and well, then that means that the knee is going to be over here. And if the knee is over here in front, then that means that the hip's going to be back here. And so you kind of just work your way up from the bottom. And I need to get more. I want to get more into like doing the videos. I love doing the videos. I just haven't had time. But I did a video on like how to draw stick people. And I always start with the ground. because you can't just like draw some figure out there floating in air, and it's gonna be really hard for you to like communicate. So you always have the ground, because that's always gonna be a constant, and you always have the gravity. So I always draw a straight line coming down for center of gravity. And so from there, now you have these points of reference. You can kind of draw a stick figure based on that, and that really helps out a lot too.
Now, the drawings themselves become kind of iconic within the world. You know, they've been doing this for a number of years. I'm sure the drawing style has kind of become refined, but the cues have become a big piece of it for you as well. And the association with, like Jordan said, one or two words or a short phrase to go along with what the drawing is. Now, were the cues something that kind of grew over time? Did you see that as kind of like a way for you to explain the point a little bit more concisely? Can you explain how the drawings worked in with the cues, because it seemed like work hand in hand with one another?
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you asking that, because that's a big part of like really what Whiteboard Daily is creating this giant comprehensive catalog of cues. I remember when I was training specifically for Olympic weightlifting, I used to go to a gym in Bloomington, Indiana. It wasn't Hoosier CrossFit. It was called Force Fitness. And the owner, one of the co-owners at the time, was Will Fleming, who was an Olympic weightlifting coach. If you're in our industry, you probably have heard about him. Awesome guy, awesome coach. And he was giving me these cues. And I was like, man, like this helps so much. Like I can visually see. One of the first cues was like down like a rock, up like a rocket, for just describing the push jerk. And I was like, that's pretty cool. That makes a lot of sense to me. And I was like, man, I think it'd be cool if I had like this book of cues, like just a collection of all the cues that somebody could like have some kind of movement that they want to describe and have a cue to reference it. Like if you're coaching the air squat later on today, here, bam, 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 here's 30 cues that you can reference or whatever. And so it's really kind of during that time when I was lifting under his direction, I was like, man, this would be cool to do. And I grew up kind of being artistic. My family's, I would say, very artistic. My brothers are very artistic, my mom. And so drawing was always encouraged in our household growing up. And I kind of when I started doing Whiteboard Daily, the more I would draw these cues and draw them out, the better, like the more engagement. Like people were like, man, this really works. I really like this. I'm going to use this later on. And just like yourselves, you want to provide something of value to other people that people can use with their own teaching. And I was like, I like doing this. And so it just grew from there. And it got, over time, it just gets better and better and more comprehensive.
I heard you talk about, you have like a few different types of graphics that you qualify them. You have like cues, movement, and then perspective. And I'm curious to know which ones get the most engagements. I think that for me, like I love the perspective ones that you have out there, just like the mindset, like how to frame things when you're in the workout or when you're doing a movement. But from your audience base, like what engages the most?
That's a good question too, because I feel like it kind of shifts around. Many times I feel like whenever I draw out movement sequences, say for the thruster or the snatch was always really popular, or
that's the one people are getting tattoos of, right?
Oh,
The snatch one's crazy. I mean, I think that's how you know when you've really made it, is when people are getting tattoos of whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah, that was like.
Is that weird for you? Is that kind of cool?
I remember the first one that ever happened it wasn't even a movement sequence. It was a young lady in Asia who had the tattoo of the Coach Bergner quote, that when the arms bend, the power ends. And which is, I mean, for many people, I love it. I think it's a great cue. But for many people, they're like, no, the arms still bend slightly. Like it's kind of a controversial cue, but she loved it so much that it was my picture that she had tattooed on her body, and it was on her back shoulder. I was like, are you kidding me? Like this is, and then ever since then, almost on a weekly basis, like I'm so humbled. It really is a weird feeling, but it's a very cool feeling to be like, you are providing something that's so relevant in the industry or in this realm, this world, that like people be like, I really identify with that, and so much to where I want to have it on my body. It's
validation that you're making a change, you're providing value.
Well, it's it's very fulfilling. I can tell you
Yeah.
that when you're helping other people, like someone has said, like when you help others, you help yourself. And it's very true, because that's all I really wanted to do with Whiteboard Daily, is just to create some kind of relevant, valuable information to help people. And it's come back to like be very fulfilling to me, because I don't know, the more you create, the more you allow yourself to be creative, the more creativity you have. It's a pretty cool feeling.
So back to the cues point of it, because I'm always looking out for the way that people on the gymnastics side. Obviously, this is where I spend a lot of my time, just kind of like breaking down movement and seeing how other people kind of disseminate information. A lot of the cues that you give in the gymnastics world are spot on. They're exactly the way that I would teach, and the way that I kind of view kind of the stumbling blocks for a lot of people with gymnastics movement. But you seem to have the ability to describe cues across wide variety of complex movements very well, and that's not easy to do. So I'm curious where you get your cues from. Are these things that you come up with on your own, or is somebody like Will someone you come in contact with in the gymnastics world and then in the endurance world and all these other spaces, or are these more organically something that you find to be helpful with the students that you work with? How do you come up with so many useful cues across so many different areas?
I'd say 75% of the cues that I draw up are something I've learned from somebody else. And I'm very quick to tip my cap, to nod to the person that I learned it from, because I think it's very important in our industry to not claim that something is yours. Like, hey, listen, like things have been going on forever. Like teaching movement has been going on forever. To say that you own a cue, or that you can't do that. I would rather say, hey, listen, this is where I picked it up. This is where I learned, because Whiteboard Daily is not about me. It's about what I learned from other people to share with you. And if you want to say you learned it from me, hey, that's fine. But this is where I learned it. And I really like to put other people in the spotlight, to say like, hey, listen, so-and-so, Greg Everett, for example, I use his cues all the time, because I feel like he's one of the greatest assets to the Olympic weightlifting community. He just knows his stuff. And of course, obviously, Chad Vaughn, everything that I've learned from him has just been phenomenal. I love.
By the way, he's really sad that he couldn't be here today. So.
I was on the USA weightlifting podcast with him and Cheryl Hayworth. Yeah. That was actually probably one of my first ones, and I was like, this is really cool. Anyway, so with the cues, I'm really quick to like say where I get them. I'll come up with some on my own, but they're always in reference to like me using them in my own teaching. Once COVID hit, I actually used to work for USA Track and Field, and it was not in the area of sport and fitness. I wasn't coaching or anything. I used to coach CrossFit a lot, and I would do that part-time, but my main job was USA Track and Field. And I was let go. I was one of the first 10% to be let go from USA Track and Field. But thankfully, I've been busting my butt on my side hustle with Whiteboard Daily for so long that it was like right there for me to go dive in full time. So it was like April of 2020, April of 2020. And I was just doing that full time, but that's all I was doing. I wasn't coaching. And I was like, man, I really want to coach, because I feel like I was like an imposter. If here I am running Whiteboard Daily, telling coaches how to coach, telling people how to move, but I'm not even doing it myself. I'm not even coaching. I was like, I got to coach. And so thankfully I came across this position. I applied for it, and I feel like the Whiteboard Daily probably gave me some credibility with getting this job that I love here so much. And so now I'm, like I said, coaching about 260 athletes throughout the week, and I get to use everything that I've learned, and then also I get inspired by learning from them on things I can put on Whiteboard Daily. So it's a pretty cool turnaround there.
Is that the main reason why you are coaching right now, is because it provides you with, the ability to practice what you preach and so forth? I guess what I'm getting at is like, if you wanted to, is Whiteboard Daily doing so well that could be your full-time thing?
100%. Without getting too much into it, yes.
That's great.
The simple answer is yes. I could live very comfortably on just doing Whiteboard Daily, but I want to coach. And so having this outlet, even though it's a full-time job and it takes a lot of time, it's still very fulfilling, because it gives me inspiration to plug into Whiteboard Daily. And also it builds some credibility on my end too, for me
Sure.
to say that I'm a strength conditioning coach. So when somebody says like, who's behind all this whiteboard deal? Oh, it's somebody who actually coaches. I mean, I think that's pretty good too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's clear that you're passionate about what you're doing. I think it's great that everything that you're doing, and something that kind of dovetails into that I saw somewhere on your, when I'm doing some research on you, is that you've got a Whiteboard Daily coaching education grant.
Yeah.
And I'd love for you to kind of go off on that, if you don't mind.
I would love to. I need to fire that back up again. That was a great opportunity for me to use Whiteboard Daily as a platform to give back to coaches. So what I would do is this: I would reach out to all of the different certification people. The people who would run Alec with adaptive training. I think I would reach out to the Bergners about the Bergner strength certification. I reached out to CrossFit to see if I can get a sponsorship for level 1. I reached out to Shane Farmer with the Dark Horse Rowing to get if they could sponsor. So basically what I would do is I reach out to these people who would run these certifications and say, hey, would you be willing to provide entry for somebody to take your certification? And they'd be like, yeah, that'd be pretty cool. And so then I would go back and I would say, hey, listen, I'm going to have a grant, and the grant is going to be awarded to a coach that you feel deserves to go to the certification. And I would collect all the nominations, and they would come in the form of a video to say like, hey, so-and-so, this is my coach, and I think they're awesome. I think they deserve to win this grant to attend the Dark Horse Rowing certification. And then the cool thing about this is that also it provides exposure for those other certifications. And then once I got all the nominations, I would create a Survey Monkey type of form so people could vote. And then they would vote on who they thought deserved that grant the most. And then I would award that to that person, to that coach. And then hopefully they could collect on that in the future to attend that certification. So it's a way to promote continuing education for coaches. And also it puts the spotlight on the certifications. It also puts the spotlight on some great coaches. And it really uses Whiteboard Daily as this platform to really provide value for other people. I haven't done that for, quite some time. That was like one of the first kind of things once Whiteboard Daily started to grow, I really started digging into that. It takes some time to organize all that stuff. So I haven't done that much recently, but man,
Dave, I think maybe we should try to help him get that going again with something to do with Power Monkey Camp.
Hey,
oh man, that would be amazing. I don't know, Karl, if you're aware, but with Power Monkey Camp, it's a full week long event, and it's a big time commitment because it's during the spring and the fall. So it's not even during the summer. So if you're a student, if you're a teacher, if you have a full-time job, it's a little bit hard to get away. Plus, it's financially challenging for a lot of people to be able to come out. So we have a lot of scholarships that we've awarded over the years in the same realm what you've been doing with the grants. And we actually started a nonprofit that just got accepted recently for its 501(c)(3) status to be able to provide more opportunity for people to be able to come out to camp in the same way. So maybe we should have a separate conversation once it's over and see if you're on board, maybe trying to get some more people out to camp.
Hey, spoiler alert. Yes, let's do that.
I feel like there's a lot we could probably do with you and Power Monkey Camp. I mean, we're so technique focused, and you clearly are too, and in such a unique way to showcase it. I think there's something there.
I would be honored. I think that'd be awesome. I trust me, I know all about Power Monkey Camp. I've seen the playground that you guys have out there. It's very impressive. Actually, I used to coach at CrossFit Naptown.
Yeah, a bunch of them came out.
And so the bias codes came out. So Jared and Caitlin, they came out there. I and maybe some other coaches from Naptown too. I know all about it. And also Sean with the Hoosier CrossFit. Very, very envious of anybody who gets to attend Power Monkey.
It is. It's a big playground for us. And, we're coming up on our 17th one this spring. And so don't want to get into a whole sales pitch on it. But for you personally, we got to get you out to camp at some point. I think you'd absolutely love it.
Man, I would be honored. That'd be amazing.
So along with the grant, you also have a bunch of other projects that are coming up pretty soon that are pretty exciting. One, you got a book coming out pretty soon, and you mentioned a new app. What's going on with the app? What's that all about?
Yeah, the app is really cool. The app is going to be, I've always wanted to create a method for people to have access to content that I put through with Whiteboard Daily that's really quick and easy. And as it currently stands, I've got this, it's a website where I created the Whiteboard Daily glossary. And it's a way that I've kind of organized all the content that I've done so people can click through, and within a few clicks, they can have like all of a comprehensive list of all the different cues as they are respective to their different movements. So say, like I said, if you're teaching an air squat later on today, you can click here, click there, bam, you can see all the cues. This app that I'm working with, Playbook, they work with a lot of other fitness, I guess you could call them influencers or people, coaches that provide services. And they approached me, they're like, hey, I think this would really work. And then I was like, man, I think it would really work too. This is what I've always wanted to do. And so I'm going to work with, we're in the final stages of putting together all the content that I've created over the past 4 years, into a way that it's easy for coaches to access exactly what they need and when they need it. So I'm very excited about that.
That's amazing. So essentially right now you have your Whiteboard Daily glossary online. Like you can sign up and get access to all of those cues through your website. You're saying this is kind of a handheld version of that, being able to pull up cues on command. You're in a class, specifically maybe ideally for a coach in a setting where they need to be able to get a certain cue across, and they can pull up according to how it's outlined movement wise. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a much better platform. That's much more, it's more user friendly, and plus there's going to be better access to like the videos that I'm going to start pushing out as well. The e-glasses that I do when I'm drawing on the.
I would watch one of those right before we got on here, and I was bummed to see that you only had like 5 or 6 there, and the last one was like a few months ago. I'm like, man, he gave up on it. But to hear you say you're planning it, it's really cool. I think it's a really cool format that you're doing there.
E-glass, they contacted me and they were like, man, I think that what you do could go hand in hand with this. And I was like, yes, absolutely. They sent me one. I started doing these videos and I love it. And I love being able to talk about stuff while I'm drawing. And I think people enjoy some commentary and seeing things drawn. It's a different way to like take in content. And actually it's right, the e-glass is right there.
Oh, yeah.
So
A lot smaller than I would have thought.
Yeah, there's different sizes. There's a small, like a small and a large, and that's a small one, which is big enough for me. But I just need to do more. I love it. I love the product. I think there's a lot of usability with it within the educator space.
Let me ask you this. I was listening a little bit to the podcast you did with MDV, and you talked about, you guys started off talking a lot about penmanship and everything. And you're like, yeah, I wrote the word squat like 5 different times before I got the way I liked it. So when you're doing these live, like how often do you get like halfway through and you're like, fuck, I got to start over again. This isn't the way I want it, you know?
It's happened quite a few times, but it's not normally with the penmanship. It'll be maybe if I'm drawing a figure and it just is like maybe form that I would be so incorrect that I couldn't get around it. Like it would be a poor example of a form. And so, I've had to just like restart and start from the beginning and just make sure I'm conscious of it next time I draw it.
I don't know if you knew this, but Dave here is an aspiring calligrapher and a bit of an artist himself. And so he probably appreciates what you're doing more than most folks.
Yeah, I actually do very much. I grew up doing a lot of art myself. Art was kind of my outlet during my training years at the training center. I ended up auctioning off a bunch of my pieces to raise some money for some charities and stuff like that. And I love the penmanship side, the artistic side of it, because it needs to resonate. It needs to be something that people is legible. It's easy to kind of see what's going on, and you do such a great job with it. The images are clear. You can see what's going on very, very well. When I was growing up, this kind of an interesting piece from the gymnastics side. I recommend both of you guys checking it out if you haven't already. But our code of points in the gymnastics world is a huge book. It's like every 4 years they change the rules and regulation in the gymnastics world. There's a men's one and a women's one. And every skill that we have in our code of points has a picture diagram associated with it. So the whole book is just a diagram that is drawn out to show how the movement shapes are supposed to be done. And the artist for the book was one of my coaches. He used to coach me at Stanford. He was Japanese coach Koichi Endo, and he's the one that does all of the drawings for the book. And actually, when I was in high school, I used to draw all of my routines on my desk every day.
Wow.
I would just draw my routines out, and then I would erase them when the class was over. So it shows you how much I was actually paying attention to what was going on. But when I met him, it was like a big deal for me. I was like, oh my God, like the guy that draws for the Code of Points. It was like such a huge deal for me. And this is kind of the next iteration of it. Like I love what you're doing, because for me it's like something that I grew up doing. And like you said, like the penmanship side, but the artistic side of it too is something that resonates with me, because I really kind of take more from it than just the cues. I appreciate the artistic side of it as well.
That means a lot to me. Yeah, there's not a day goes by that I don't have a whiteboard marker in my hand. So I definitely feel like it's a tool that I use to communicate. And I love being able to see like my penmanship get better, my drawing get better, because I feel like that's a big part of like my own personality kind of comes through with like, I would like for it to be like what I draw, how I write. It would be pretty cool to like be so recognizable. It'd be like, oh, like that's probably Whiteboard Daily drew that, or like
I think you're probably there.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So
yeah, it's a crazy feeling, really good feeling.
do you have any, like, so I'm sure that a huge part of your audience are coaches and obviously also athletes, but for the coaches out there that when they write on whiteboards, it looks like a serial killer wrote there, which is me. Do you have any recommendations on how to write and present what you're trying to do a little bit better? I mean, anything?
Yeah, absolutely. Just like when you are drawing, when it comes down to words, I know this is going to sound so kind of like, I don't know, picky or whatever, like, but it makes a big difference. Like having consistency in your sizing of how you write. And Dave, I'm sure if you're into calligraphy, you kind of understand what I'm saying. Like you want to make sure that you almost are like, it's organic, but you're still like replicating the A that looks at the beginning of the sentence, looks like the A at the end of the sentence. It's almost like you're a typewriter, but it's an organic typewriter, if that makes sense.
It's a lot like you have a graphic in here about your first rep looking like your last rep, or your last rep looking like your first rep. It's the same concept, it sounds like.
Same concept. That's a
Technique goes across the board. No matter what the medium is, technique is still in place, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I need better writing technique, that is for sure.
And it's just practice, man. Practice.
And so from the app, the book side of it too, I know if Chad was on right here, the whole podcast would be talking about writing a book. It's actually one of the reasons why he's not on the podcast. He's spending more time trying to finish his book that he's been working on for a number of years now. But what's going on with your book? What is it exactly? And what are release dates? Is there an anticipated time for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Victory Belt Publishing, they are the same publishers who have worked with Dr. Aaron Horsig of Squat University.
Yep.
They've worked with Kelly Starrett, Supple Leopard. They've worked with Brian McKenzie for Power Speed Endurance, Brent Contreras for his glute book. I'm missing one. I probably mentioned. Anyway, big timers in our industry. And they approached me to say, hey, listen, have you ever thought about a book? And I was like, yes, absolutely. Like that's the whole reason I kind of started Whiteboard Days, to create like a comprehensive collection of cues. And so we started talking, and it's because I started this job that's been taking a lot of my time, unfortunately, but the book is still on track. I've got a meeting with the publishers on Thursday to kind of catch up on where we are. But it's going to be a robust, comprehensive collection of basically every single thing I've drawn. I just put together the table of contents, and I'm going to have over 430 draw illustrations in there.
Wow.
It's going to be a coffee table book, nice big full color book that we kind of see as being like not only a useful coaching tool, but also something that would be kind of cool to be on a coffee table of a CrossFit affiliate when you walk in there. Just something cool.
Absolutely.
For people to see.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it's a very unique book. It's the tough part now is organizing all of the captions that I've written for all of the drawings. All the drawings are ready to go. I've got them all in folders, all cleaned up in Photoshop. All that stuff's ready to go. It's getting the written text that I've done for each of those drawings to kind of give it some kind of uh, description. So like when you read a coaching cue, you actually have some background there.
Sounds like something to get one of your students to be an intern for and just copy and paste them off your Instagram onto this thing.
Man, well, that's a really good point. Like, yeah, I actually like where you're going with that. I think I actually might pursue that. But so every single, the way my system for putting together posts, every single caption, every single post is his own caption, is a note in my notes app on my phone or on my laptop. It's in my notes app. And so again, it's all organized, but man, it's individually in all those notes. So right now, as we're talking, this is going to be really crazy. I'm going to look up how many notes I've got. I've got 1,700 notes in my notes app. And just because that's been a big part of my system for like creating content or creating captions is writing stuff in there. So I need to transfer that stuff over, not 1,700 notes, but just like one for each of those drawings, to give some stuff there, some description.
Have you had any?
I would imagine that that's something that's pretty. You can replicate that. You know, this book might be part one of a series. You know, you come a couple years down the road, you get another few hundred cues under your belt. That's part two, ready to go, no problem.
Yeah, I definitely see it as that. I think that there's room for like volume 1, volume 2. I feel like things are always, there's nothing new under the sun, but there are like new cues that people see things. And that Maya Angelou quote that I kind of mentioned earlier, like the more creative you allow yourself to be, the more creativity you receive. Like it just like it turns into like this big ball that just continues to grow. It's like this snowball of
Like
creativity.
juggernaut.
I just let myself be creative, and like even if something's kind of obscure, I'm like, well, let me draw it out, see how it looks, and then sometimes it's really well received by the people, so it's cool.
It's actually a good vetting process for the book, your Instagram. Like you just put them all out there, and if some people it just doesn't resonate with, like, well, that doesn't make it into the book, and these other ones do, or whatever. But you could also even make like sports specific editions of your book, you know?
Yeah, I'm like boxing has been like, there are people who are in different industries, in different sports. Golf is definitely one. Boxing is one. Things where like baseball, yeah, like you said, specific sports. Like I want to get into those as well. Like I feel like I'm just at the very beginning of all of this. If I really want to pursue it.
Is there a cue that you found to be, of all the ones that you've kind of worked through, is there one that kind of like has resonated with you really well, and that you've seen also work really well with the students that you work with? Is there one that kind of jumps out that has maybe done the best on social media as well?
Let me think here. Yeah, there's so many. I'll tell you one that's really transferable that I like a lot. I'm not sure if you know who Drew Zaro is. Drew Zaro is a teacher for the gymnastics certification. And he's a phenomenal mover. He's a great teacher. And he and I, we kind of worked together on some stuff in the past, but he mentioned tighter is lighter. And I like that because
that's your handstand one, right? That you do.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I did it for handstands. Yes. I also did it for deadlifts, because when you get when you brace, you're tight. It's easier to lift things off the ground, but also it applies to like just the bar path. So keeping a bar path closer to your body, tighter to your body, is going to feel lighter, rather than like holding a bucket of water out here, holding a bucket of water close to the body. So I like cues that have transferability across different disciplines, right?
Those are a couple of the graphics that I like the most on yours, where you had two different movements that people wouldn't normally equate to one another. And you show the sequence of how, like one of them was like a kipping handstand push-up, and it was a thruster or a wall ball or something. It was like identical, but one was inverted. And it was kind of cool to see that correlation.
I've always kind of thought about that. I'm sure I'm not the first person to always think about that. Like it's a similar movement pattern, but like to actually draw it out so somebody sees it, and you get like, novice movers who've never kind of put those two and two together. You're like, wait a second, it's the same kind of thing, like quarter extremity, full extension, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Love it. Well, we're getting towards the end here, man. And I really appreciate talking to you. I'm sad that it took so long for us to get you on the podcast, but hopefully this is kind of the initiation of our time spent together, and we can get you out to a Power Monkey camp sometime soon. But before we get you out of here, would you mind answering a couple quick questions for us?
Hey, bring it. It's all good.
All right. First one, we don't have Chad here, so you can just be honest. what sport or discipline do you prefer, weightlifting or gymnastics?
Oh man, that's really tough. I'm gonna flip the script here. I do love Olympic weightlifting. I love weightlifting in general, but because I'm tall and I adopted this mentality very early on in my CrossFit um, path, and I was like, I want to find the stuff that I'm horrible at. I want to make friends with my enemies, and then just beat them into the ground. So I'm going to say, despite me being 6'7", I love the bodyweight movements. I love gymnastics. I do probably 100 pull-ups every single day. So yeah,
Chad's gonna be pissed. He literally texted us right before this. He said, "Hey, just so you know, Karl really, really likes weightlifting."
I do. I've got, well, I mean, people get the snatch sequence tattooed on their body, but I'm gonna just because to show honor to Dave Durrani here, I'm gonna say gymnastics.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm gonna chalk it up as a win, no matter what, even if Chad's not on. It's part of not being on a podcast. Unfortunately, you sometimes lose out on these questions. So, I'm sure one of the hardest things for you is to actually find a bar that's high enough for you to be able to swing freely on.
Yes.
I mean, at 6'7" with that wingspan too, I can't imagine that it's super easy. But I appreciate the gymnastics love there, and we can continue to work on some stuff we get you at the camp.
I would be honored. Yeah, that is the curse that I have. Like, don't get me wrong, I love being tall, but also, man, when it comes to pull-up bars, oh my gosh, if I can, that's so tough to find one, because it's, the kip, but also just being able to dead hang and not have to worry about bending your knees.
Then also you need a ceiling high enough for you to do a bar muscle up to be able to get on top. And there's a lot of caveats there.
I used to, like, in my very first garage gym, I had an attic. I had access to the attic through the garage. And so I would do muscle ups, but my rings were coming down through the attic ring. So when I pressed up into support, I would go through the ceiling. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Next question here. Any guests that you think would be great for us to have on the podcast?
Okay. Okay. Let me tell you something. And you guys probably know him. I'm just going to put him out right now because first off, Greg Everett I love Greg Everett. He's awesome. I don't know if he's ever been on there, but has he?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. All right, cool. One that flies under the radar, and I've been following him forever. I think he's an awesome guy. Is Zach Evanesh. He's
old school.
He is old school. And I've been following him for a long time. I like his perspective on he's almost like a garage gym, old school type of grit. And he just seems like an awesome guy. I think that he might be someone worth looking into. I think he'd be a cool guy to sit down and talk to.
All right, perfect. Jordan?
I'll put him on the list.
Gotta line him up.
So final question here, without saying the obvious answer, which would be your new book coming out. Are there any books out there that you that have really resonated with you that you would recommend to any of our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure there's probably a popular one with many of your listeners, just because I think it's a popular book nowadays, is Atomic Habits by James Cleary.
In the last month, I think that's been recommended like 17 times or something.
Yeah. He's and then not only is he really good at explaining things and simplifying things, but he also kind of he's a weightlifting enthusiast. And I think that kind of comes across in how how his discipline comes through. And I just like the way he writes. I like the way how he describes stuff. I had to pick up that book as soon as I saw other people recommending it. So this is just affirmation to go and get that book. Yeah.
That's also, it's another podcast guest. I think we got to try to get him on, and he would be a great one, especially if he's interested in weightlifting. We just got to make sure that Chad's not on so he can make another point in that corner.
Do you have anything else coming up that we haven't talked about that you want to let people know about, or?
No, and the app and the book are big time landmarks for me, big benchmarks for me. Hopefully people can expect to see more e-glasses, those videos coming from me. I love doing those. And man, I'm just know that doing Whiteboard Daily is a massive honor for me. And I don't take it lightly. I love sharing good, valuable content to help other coaches be better coaches and just help people become better movers. I'm very thankful for the platform that I have. I'm very thankful to be able to sit down and talk with you guys and to see interest from other people about what I'm doing. Because I'm just as interested in what you guys are doing. I'm very thankful. So thank you guys for having me. And yeah, man, that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Karl. We really appreciate the time. And like I said, hopefully we can meet you in person sometime soon. For the rest of you guys out there, please make sure you head over to powermonkeyfitness.com for services and upcoming events. Check out our Instagram pages for regular teaching and technical content at Power Monkey Fitness, at Dave Durante, and at Oli Chad. Even though Chad is not here, we'll get a little shout out to his page. He's always putting out good content. On behalf of Power Monkey Fitness, I'm your host, Dave Durante, with my co-host, Jordan Samuel, here for the first time, actually, as a co-host. Jordan, thanks for taking the time to help us out today as a guest host. We really appreciate it. And thank you all for listening. Just really quickly, as an upcoming event, we do have our next Power Monkey Camp coming up the first week of May. You can check that out at powermonkeycamp.com. We have a few spots left over, and our fall camp will be September 25th through October 1st. You can check that out as well. Both of those are up for registration. Till next time, everyone, thanks for listening.